Today we are going to talk about Oklahoma's latest commitment, LaRon Stokes, and how that affects Oklahoma's recruiting going forward, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we're going to talk about LaRon Stokes and how that affects Oklahoma's recruiting going forward, especially with early signing day around the corner. As many folks who follow the channel and follow Oklahoma football recruiting know, early signing day is an opportunity for the commits for the 2019 class to sign their national letter of intent, to basically be done with it, to get it out of the way, and for many of them to set the table for them to enroll in January so they can be a part of winter workouts, spring football, summer workouts, and have a jump on anybody who's arriving over the summer and into preseason camp so that they can not just have an opportunity to play sooner, but get into Bennie Owens' strength and conditioning program and try to learn the ropes of being an NCAA student athlete, which is not simple. Anybody who has been a student athlete will tell you. It's one of the other reasons why I love the early signing period. But from a strategic standpoint, the early signing period is also nice that you know what you have. So with Oklahoma, there are 18 committed prospects, with LaRon Stokes announcing his commitment on Sunday. I expect all 18 to sign their national letters of intent and many of them to enroll next month at Oklahoma. But with LaRon Stokes, you basically were able to find a fit for Jacoby Jones' decommitment and eventual commitment to Texas. And what I like most about this is that LaRon Stokes is basically the kind of guy that you would have gotten Jacoby Jones, where Jacoby Jones is ranked the #1 strong side defensive end for this JUCO class. LaRon Stokes is ranked #3 coming out of NEO, that'd be Northeastern Oklahoma, which is a JUCO, which for a long time was the JUCO. He is 6'4", 245, where Jacoby Jones is 6'4", 250. He's raw, but what I liked, I saw. He's got some really great get off, and he's got tremendous upside. And if you follow OUInsider.com, you can see that Brandon Drumm basically thought that this was going to happen, and when it did, it helped to shore up a spot that you already knew you wanted to fill with this kind of a prospect. But the thing that I think I like most about this is that you got a defensive commitment in December without a defensive coordinator, which means that Calvin Thibodeau, Ruffin McNeil, and Lincoln Riley were doing all the heavy lifting of getting a guy like LaRon Stokes into the boat. So for Oklahoma, that means you have 5 defensive linemen expected to sign their national letter of intent on Wednesday. That would be Corey Roberson, Joseph Wette, Marcus Hicks, Derek Green, and again, LaRon Stokes. Stokes is also a Oklahoma native coming out of Tulsa, where he played for Noah's homeschool. Did not really get a lot of attention or a lot of offers. Went to JUCO, and all of a sudden, the doors opened up for him. Not just with Oklahoma, but with UConn, with Oregon, with Oklahoma State, and with Virginia Tech. And I mentioned Virginia Tech last because that was a big tip for a lot of folks that were following his recruiting. He was all set to take a visit to Tech to see former OU quarterback Justin Fuente, who's running the program up there at Blacksburg now. But rather than make the trip to Tech, once he was extended the offer by Oklahoma, he decided to take a trip to Norman. So immediately you have to feel good about that if you're an OU fan. And then he said what many recruits say when they're on their visits to Oklahoma, which is that it genuinely feels like home. It genuinely feels like I'm becoming part of a family. And with a guy like LaRon Stokes, who says this was my dream school, and being able to commit to Oklahoma is a dream come true, that's exactly the kind of guy that you want at Oklahoma. And he comes with pretty great stats. Now, I know JUCO and I know NEO, but 76 tackles, 7 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. Yeah, that's getting it done at any level. And again, it goes to show the kind of work that Lincoln Riley and the staff are continuing to do without a head man for the defensive coordinator position. And I think as we run into early signing period and the guys who are supposed to sign, and you look at the recruiting rankings, you can be dismayed. You could see that Oklahoma was trending toward a top 5 recruiting class. And then over the last couple of months, it feels like it started to come apart just a little bit, but also you saw other schools picking up commitments left and right, Many of them have filled the boat. And that's why, with the commitments that Oklahoma has, it ranks number 9 in the 24/7 composite ahead of early signing period. But if you just go through the top 10, you can see Michigan already has 25 commits. Texas has 20. Clemson has 24. Oregon has 20. Texas A&M has 24. Alabama has 24. The number of teams is slowly going down because the boats are getting filled. But also, if you're Oklahoma, you expect to get a bump once you hire a new defensive coordinator. Perhaps he's bringing guys with him that he really likes. I remember that Mike Stoops did that when he brought along Cortez Johnson from Arizona. We know that Cortez Johnson didn't pan out, but we all thought he was going to be pretty good because that was an enormous corner, and we all know how much we like enormous corners. I wished it would have panned out. It just didn't. But if you're Pete Golding, if you're Alex Grinch, if you're any of these other defensive coordinator candidates, perhaps you have guys that you form relationships with for which that matters, right? And that's one of the things that I want to also get across to folks is when you are recruiting a kid, you're recruiting his family, you're recruiting his high school, you're recruiting his high school coach. Those men, the assistant coaches, form relationships, not just with the players, but with all the people around the players. So when you make a move like firing Mike Stoops, you also have to do all the work of making sure that relationship between the head coach and the position coaches around that kid are very strong. Otherwise, you can risk losing highly valued, highly sought after recruits who may have relationships with other coaches who still have jobs at the universities for which they're selling. All of these things matter, and they're all of a piece. If you were hired onto a job by a middle manager and that guy got fired, you would probably start to look around for where else you could go work, especially if you're not so sure that you're going to get along with your new boss. We all have that issue, and I think that would be magnified with teenagers. Teenagers are not just fickle. Some of them don't know exactly what they want, so they are trying to trust the person who is recruiting them as opposed to the school. It's very difficult to commit to a school. It's easier to commit to a person because a school is an inanimate object. A person will shepherd you, will lead you, will keep you out of trouble, and that is what you're able to sell if you're Lincoln Riley is trust me, and the university has my back, and I have your back. And obviously that is a message that is working, especially when you look at LaRon Stokes and his willingness to commit without a defensive coordinator. While I am on the subject of defensive coordinators, it still feels like Pete Golding is very much in the mix. It still feels like Alex Grinch is very much in the mix. There hasn't been a whole lot of conversation or scuttlebutt about anybody else not named those guys. And all of this is complicated because we don't know whether or not Greg Schiano is going to stay on as the defense coordinator at Ohio State. And you got to believe if he left or was fired, Alex Grinch would be elevated. At Alabama, we have lots of evidence to support that Pete Golding was actually up for the Ole Miss job and for whatever reason decided that Alabama was the place for him to stay. And if you're Pete Golding, this is a very good time to be Pete Golding because somebody's going to pay you handsomely to continue to do what you do best, which is coach defense, whether it be at Alabama, whether it be at Oklahoma, or anywhere else for that matter. That man is going to make out with the bag. But back to recruiting, I know that there are folks who are going to start fretting. I know they're going to start to feel bad because it feels like Oklahoma's just sliding down the rankings. All of this is in flux until National Signing Day in February. And I will remind you that Buki was a 5-star recruit that you picked up after the new year. Deshaun White was a silent commit who became public after the new year. Michael Thompson was a commitment picked up just days before National Signing Day. All of these guys were All-Americans, and you're setting the foundation for what could be an outstanding class still, depending on what you can do with some top uncommitted prospects like Marcus Stripling, like Jaden Hazelwood, like David Ugwobu, like Marcel Brooks, like Shaman Cooper. Peyton Powell with his decommitment from Texas, he's in play. Jordan Battle, who is committed to Ohio State, is still listening to folks. Jeremiah Criddle decommitted from Oregon and had an in-home visit from Lincoln Riley. There are too many pieces still unaccounted for anybody to have any real indication of how this 2019 class is going to turn out for Oklahoma. But the one thing we know about Lincoln Riley and this staff, especially since he's become head coach, is that they close strong. And I expect them to close like gangbusters just as soon as Lincoln Riley hires a defensive coordinator. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.